in the early 80s, I got a job in Fort Myers, Florida, and fortunately had a news director who had been the #1 correspondent in Vietnam. He had worked for both NBC and ABC, and when I say #1, they did a study that showed that he filed more reports than anybody else from Vietnam. So Jim Bennett was a tremendous influence on me, teaching me what I hadn't really learned in college because they didn't really teach us what journalism was, at least doing it on television. This is something that I thought I wanted to do with my career. It was probably in '85 that he sent me down to Central America to do something on the Contras. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. And then when we had the takedown of Noriega in Panama, I got a chance to go down there. And again, I was like, wow, this is something I really need to do. And so I kept thinking, this is what a real journalist does. They do this. Now, what I didn't know and what I know today is the reason Jim Bennett was no longer doing that is because when you see war up close, it does affect you. It impacts you. I saw a tremendous amount of conflict in Haiti, which is a very brutal conflict because people take tires and wrap them around their necks and light them on fire, and they have machetes. I was standing at a location once where we were here, and there was a gunfight going on here, and so we're basically in the middle of a gunfight, hiding in a porch of a house, and a still cameraman from Reuters steps out and gets shot in the head. And you always think in your mind, oh, I'm going to be that hero. I'll be the guy who, despite the bullets going, I'll get out there and I'll drag the guy in and I'll save his life even if he's been shot. But when you're actually in that moment, you realize that you're in paralysis. And, there's a guy laying there, he's been shot in the head, and still moaning in pain. And it was a friend of mine, another still photographer, who went out there and dragged him in. And I was like, wow, I'm not the person I thought I would be. But you learn a lot about who you are in conflict. Spent time in Kosovo and in Belgrade, where the ethnic hatred was just something that I had not experienced, not seen, and was really quite disturbed by, including meeting a man who was lined up, ethnic Albanian, lined up with a group of other in this town, and they opened fire on these people. It sounds like something out of a World War II movie, but this is what happened in this little village. And the only reason I could talk to him was because as everybody was falling down, he fell down and bodies fell on top of him, and he lay there playing dead until the Serbs left. Then he crawled out, went into the woods, and we came upon him, and he told us his story. So I went to the first Gulf War. I went to the more recent Gulf Wars, as we went into Iraq. I don't know. I've seen a lot. I spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. When I sort of see everything, I kind of conclude that, at the end of the day, the people who are most damaged by war are the most innocent. I see a lot of people who really don't have any interest in the war and are not fighting for anything other than literally food, water, survival, trying to keep their families together. And so it's probably gotten to the point in my career where I'm not interested in going back to see more conflict, more war. That doesn't mean that going to Venezuela is off the table. This is a struggle for what I think is ultimately going to be a struggle for democracy, or at least of some sort of self-rule there. So I'm completely fine with that. But I think I'm done with the two warring sides trying to kill each other. But with ISIS, I'll be covering this the rest of my career. And whether it's called ISIS in 5 years from now, who knows? That there will always be some sort of conflict like that, whether it's in Miami, New York, or overseas.
So you might go